I heard gunshots. Sorry. I'm sorry.
This is 16-year-old Julia Grace Egler. She just led police to the bodies of her mother and her mother's boyfriend, telling them a male intruder murdered them in cold blood.
Female, signal 7 on the kitchen floor. Male, signal 7 in the bathroom. He's got shell casings in there and also a butcher knife in there.
But the evidence at the scene won't back up her story. And with every new detail investigators uncover, one question becomes harder to ignore. Is Julia really telling the truth?
I just grabbed the phone.
Probably daughter.
July 7th, 2024. Palm Bay, Florida. Julia calls 911 and reports a break-in, saying a man about 5'8" got in through the back sliding door using a hammer from the backyard.
911, what's the location of the emergency? Hello? Okay, what's going on?
Oh, God. So, basically, I was home alone, and this guy, he broke into the house. I grabbed the phone, so I...
Do you know who the man is?
No, I don't know who it was.
Is he still in there?
I don't think so. I waited. I hid in my room for, like, a really long time. I don't even know how long it's been.
Officers respond thinking it's a burglary call, with no idea what's actually waiting for them inside.
How you doing? What's going on?
Why is there blood on the floor?
Because they're...
Huh?
Please help.
What? You okay? Are you okay? Are you bleeding?
No.
Who's bleeding?
Just... I'm lonely.
Come outside. Come outside. Come outside. What is going on? Why is that door snapped?
Someone's getting shit. I'm sorry. I'm so much. It's not very family thing to do.
Julia presents as male, which is why the first officer on scene addresses her as man. Her mother had been posting her as a girl on social media as far back as 2015, but Julia had been transitioning, socially and personally, going by the name Jasper. Later in the case, she'll talk to detectives about this and how it ties directly into the tragedy officers have just walked into. For now, there's blood on the floor, and they need to know who's fast.
Who's bleeding? Where's your mom? Stay here. Stay here. Hey. Hang on. It was 10:33. Somebody stay out here with her.
Can we do that?
Inside, officers find the first body right away. Julia's mother, Kelley McCollom, in the living room. Still working the intruder story and with no idea who they're dealing with, they take no chances, clearing the house room by room with guns drawn. Julia only mentioned her mom at the door. In the bathroom, however, they find out that wasn't the whole story.
Female, signal 7 on the kitchen floor. Male, signal 7 in the bathroom. He's got shell casings in there and also a butcher knife in there. Outside the back door, there's an axe with a sledgehammer where he busted the door in. There's shells, not spent, but there's rounds outside the back door, which look like the same ones that are in the bathroom. But there's like 3 or 4 empty shell casings in the bathroom. And then the knife, the male is 7 in the bathroom, the female's 7 in the kitchen.
There's a second body in the bathroom. McCollum's boyfriend, Szejnrok, shot dead, shell casings scattered nearby. As officers talk through the scene, his name starts pulling up history. 3 months earlier, in April 2024, Szejnrok was arrested for false imprisonment and domestic battery after an altercation with McCollum in a Winn-Dixie parking lot in West Melbourne. Nobody's ruled out yet. The killer could still be anyone, but something else in the house is about to change that. It's a double homicide now.
There is a camera over the garage door. I don't know about inside or in the back.
With nothing yet pointing at Julia, officers keep processing the scene. Then they notice something else.
I did not. Like I said, there's a knife on the counter, but I didn't see it. Didn't see a handgun or a rifle.
The murder weapons are nowhere in sight, but officers keep piecing the scene together, and they notice something else. Someone has stepped in the blood.
Is this you guys, do you think?
No,
No?
that was not us. Because we did not step in any blood. We were very careful.
Does he have shoes on?
Yeah, it's wearing sneakers.
Alright.
And it
His look like
looks like
these look like Converse.
yeah.
Those look like Converse. Probably daughter.
Is she wearing shoes?
No,
The daughter came out.
she's not wearing shoes.
She's daughter's not?
No, mom is not wearing shoes. She's barefoot.
While part of the team processes the scene, another officer stays with Julia, trying to get her story. It isn't easy. She's inconsolable, crying so hard the officer checks if she's hurt. She says no, and the crying only gets worse. Eventually, she pulls herself together enough to give them something, and what she says points straight at Szejnrok, her mother's boyfriend.
Was there any arguments or anything tonight?
Between who?
Page 7, 252.
Me and my mom used to argue a lot.
You have the crime scene
told
one.
her I loved her.
Don't want to get it started.
I should have told her I loved
That work
her.
like
Okay. Hey, it's okay.
I'll never get to.
It's okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Please forgive me.
Do you have any other family around here? No.
No, my brother, he's in his 20s. He lives in Louisiana. My dad's in Texas.
Okay.
From Julia, officers begin piecing together her family situation. A brother in his 20s living in Louisiana, a father in Texas, and no close relatives nearby besides the two people who had just died. What stands out is how gently the officers treat her, offering comfort as she quietly accepts it. She's led to the driveway and asked to sit while investigators continue processing the scene. A short time later, Detective Nicole Brown begins asking her what happened.
You live here?
Yeah.
Okay. Who lives here with you?
Mom.
Your mom? Okay. What?
Her boyfriend hanged out around here a lot.
Who's her boyfriend?
Matthew.
Who? Matthew? How long have they been together?
About a year now.
Okay. I'm just going to ask you a couple basic questions so you can get an understanding here, and I'll give you a couple minutes to... Were you asleep? No?
With the time
Okay. At the time of what?
when it started,
What started?
when he came up to the window.
Matthew came up to the window?
No, I don't know who it was.
You don't know who it was? Okay. This front window right here?
Those glass sliding doors or back door. It was
Seconds into the interview, Julia repeats that her mom and Szejnrok had been fighting a lot and mentions they'd been together about a year. With her calmer now and talking, Detective Brown pushes for details on what actually happened. For now, Julia's story still lines up with what she told dispatch.
Where was your mom at?
her and her boyfriend were out. They were buying. I was afraid. I heard that.
Okay. And so they were out when you heard this person come up to the window? Okay. Did you call your mom and tell her?
Couldn't call me once. I didn't have time to turn the phone. We ran into the room and there was a hammer by the back. And he used to smash the back door, and I don't think he knew that it was unlocked, but that's why I was in such a rush to get the dogs to my room, because he could just open the door and come in.
Okay, so this guy smashed the back window while you're inside. And did you call 911?
I didn't have my phone.
Okay.
I couldn't do anything.
Okay.
A red flag just surfaced. On the 911 call, Julia had her phone on her, in the room with her dogs. Now, talking to the detective, she claims she couldn't call her mom because she didn't have her phone. Detective Brown clocks the inconsistency, but doesn't call it out yet, keeping Julia talking through the intruder story instead.
So you're in your room. Do you hear this person moving around in the house?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's gross. Yeah, I think I could. I think they broke. I think they broke something. 'Cause I heard like loud banging.
Okay. When did the banging stop?
I'm not really sure. I was just. It's just so scared.
You get that other chair.
Yeah.
But your mom was not home when this happened?
Yeah. No.
Okay. Did you hear her arrive home?
I was in my room and
You think what?
I was in my room and it was so loud. It was so loud. And then
What was wrong?
it was so quiet. The silence. It hurt.
What was loud? Like yelling?
No, I think I heard gunshots.
Okay.
When I heard those, I knew that is someone that died. I can feel it, you know? I don't know if that sounds stupid, but it was so loud. I couldn't take it anymore when I came out.
Julia's story starts fraying. First, she says she didn't hear her mom come home because she was already in her room. Then, out of nowhere, she mentions a loud noise, and that gets Brown's attention. She says she eventually couldn't take the noise anymore and came out to see what was going on. Brown stays patient, letting her talk at her own pace, only stepping in when something needs pinning down.
What did you see when you came out?
Similar now. Just a bloody mess.
Okay. Did you see anything other than blood?
Well, there's those two in there.
Two people?
Yeah, my mom and her boyfriend. And killed them.
Who killed them?
I don't know. I don't know who he was.
So you're saying that your mom and him weren't home when this person was breaking in to the house?
Detective Brown catches the inconsistency, so Brown asks her directly, what made her feel safe enough to leave her room? Because whatever it wasn't her mother or her boyfriend.
What prompted you to get enough courage to get out, to walk out of the room?
I've been it so long. And the silence was so loud. I just couldn't take it anymore.
How much of a time delay would you say there was between someone breaking into the house and your mom coming home?
A couple of hours, maybe.
It's 12:30 in the morning right now. What time? Was it still light out or was it dark out when you heard this person break in?
It's still light out.
It was still light out? And then you stayed in your room. And then was it dark out when your parents got home or when your mom and her boyfriend got home?
So, yeah.
Yeah.
The timeline's falling apart, but Brown isn't done yet, and her next question blows the biggest hole in the story so far.
And you never went out of your room to tell them what happened?
I could have sworn he was still there.
At this point, detectives are treating Julia as a witness, with no reason to believe she could be anything else. They're working the scene, listening to her account, and following the evidence wherever it leads. For the moment, Julia controls the narrative. She has no idea that's about to change. Piece by piece, the physical evidence begins unraveling her story, pulling every thread back toward the truth.
It's a lot. I understand it's definitely tough time.
I've never been able
Lots of process.
to do it. I tell you that. How much I really love her.
Were you and your mom close?
I fought a lot, but I guess.
You for more projectiles?
Yep, there's one right here in the doorway. But that's not, I mean, he came in the back.
Yeah.
So this has to be,
Yeah, that's weird.
it's gotta be.
Dude,
Officers keep spotting things that don't add up around the scene. Confusing as they are, nothing's ruled out yet. They're still working the intruder story, for now.
See, there's two. So he must have been shooting as he came in. I think,
But the casings are in the bathroom.
yeah, but there's a casing right, or there's a,
Right.
he just picked the casings up.
You
He
think?
was waiting for her.
You just look the bathroom.
Look where her backpack's there, her shoes are off.
Right.
Like, she can kind of take her shoes off, sent her backpack down. She either had three shots in the right hand side. Walks in the door, and then he comes out. Down. He's sitting over here. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then he walks. They said, I said, it's not in her hair, but.
Brought back the delivery. Big out. Got it.
Because when you guys check out, you sure there's stuff.
Was she checked on?
Interview over. Brown heads inside with an officer to see the scene herself. First thing she learns. The sliding door was broken with an axe, not a hammer like Julia said on the 911 call. Then she spots something that will end up placing Julia right at the scene.
One of whose shoes those are. Ours?
I don't think so, no, because when we came in, those footprints were already there.
Okay.
213. So there's a projectile in here. And then there's someone in the hallway. Right there. And then she said there's another one in the hallway. I don't know if it's in the wall or what. He's got, like, I think it was either 3 or 4 spent shell casings in the bathroom with him and a big butcher knife.
4?
Yeah, laying on the ground. And then there's a big butcher knife on the bathroom counter also.
The signs are starting to point at Julia, but Brown doesn't jump on it. She keeps working the scene. She wants the evidence to confirm it before she drops the intruder story and turns her focus fully on Julia.
So that's what I need to see what she has on for shoes, because they go all the way through. Mom's back here. Purse there. Her flip-flops. Her sunglasses on. Flip-flops are right there by her feet, but she just taken them off from the chair. There's different MRI signs. I'm not going to put.
Scene checked, Brown and an officer head around to the back of the house. Neither of them knows it yet, but what they're about to find will box Julia in for good and finally get her to confess.
Camera back here, I didn't notice that before.
Yeah.
Who's it?
Here to relieve you.
What a beautiful soul. It's all right there.
With that discovery in hand, officers move fast, getting a search warrant and pulling the security footage. It confirms no one else entered the house that day, meaning the killer is very likely the person they've been watching over this whole time. Not wanting to spook her, they tell Julia she's heading to the station lobby just to get out of the heat. She agrees, with no idea they've already figured her out or that the station is about to be a very different conversation. In the early hours of July 7th, detectives Ken Szejnrok and Nicole Brown confronted Julia with the footprint and the footage. She broke, admitting to both killings and to fabricating the 911 call. Her motive, a relationship with her mother that had been falling apart over her gender identity and resentment toward her mother's boyfriend, Matthew Szejnrok, just 6 years older than her and 16 years younger than her mom. Julia was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree premeditated murder, booked at the Palm Bay Police Department, then transferred to juvenile detention without incident. Now 17, she's still facing life in prison, with no trial date set.